a lawsuit has been filed against the state of Louisiana, challenging a newly passed law reclassifying the drug mifepristone and misoprostol. They're controlled dangerous substances. Mifepristone and misoprostol are drugs commonly used by hospitals to help stop or prevent postpartum hemorrhaging. The drugs are also used as abortion medications, something state lawmakers opposed, opting to outlaw the drug as a controlled dangerous substance through Legislative Act 246. In the suit filed today, plaintiffs argue the scheduling of the drug as a dangerous substance violates Louisiana's Constitution. You can hear more about what part of the Louisiana Constitution the law allegedly violates at 6:30 over on CBS 2.